And it is time for Fabulous Friday. Grab your cell phone, call your friends, tell them to join us here on Facebook or on my YouTube channel because we are going to have some fun today on Fabulous Friday. So let's get started, everybody, because today's Fabulous Friday is collard greens. And I love collard greens, and I'm going to share with you my recipe for collard greens. And I'm also going to share with you how to get started from the time you buy those bunches of collard greens in the grocery store or farmer's market to the time you serve them to the dinner plate. So let's get started with the first thing you're going to do with those collard greens. Now, this is a personal preference. Some people like to take the collard greens and keep that vein inside, and they just like to chop up that vein and have it mixed in with the collard greens. Personally, I like to take it out. So it is a personal choice, but I'm going to show you how I take that large vein out, and I'm just going to do a couple of leaves so you can see what I mean. You just simply turn your collard green leaf over, run your knife around that large vein, and then you've simply got a full leaf of collard greens. And once I've done that, I like to cut them into strips. So here we have about 3 leaves that I've already taken the vein out. And I'm going to take my knife and I'm just going to slice it across. I like to do this because it really makes them so much easier to pick up with your fork when it's time to eat them. So we've got our collard greens, and now we're going to show you what to do after you've cut your strips, because the next part is preparing those wonderful fresh collard greens in water with a little salt so you can make sure they're nice and clean before you put them in your stock pot. My greens are now soaking in the water, and I'm going to let that happen for a little while. And while that's going on, I am going to take garlic cloves and I'm going to mince them. I'm not going to use a lot of garlic, but I'm just going to cut up a few pieces of garlic cloves because we're going to put these garlic cloves in our 11-quart stock pot, and we're going to saute them with just a little bit of olive oil. So let's get these chopped and minced up. These are going to actually end up disintegrating quite a bit because we're going to be boiling our pot for a while. One of the things I really feel strongly about in making collard greens is that your broth is really what dictates how your collard greens are going to taste. So let's chop up and mince this garlic, not too tiny, but in nice small pieces. So once I've done that, I'll be able to place my garlic in my 11-quart VIDA SANA stock pot. So we've got that all done, and I'm going to move my garlic to the side for just a little bit, and I'll be putting it in the stock pot in just a minute. But also I'm going to take my red onion and I'm going to dice it. And since we're not using a lot, I won't use a chopper. I'll just do this with my knife on my cutting board instead of using my chopper. But if you'd like, you could use your chopper. Once again, these onions are going to disintegrate because I'm going to saute them along with the garlic. So here we go. This is our red onion. And of course, we're going to be using lots of ingredients that will help make the taste of our collard greens really tasty. All right, guys, so we've got our onion and we've got our garlic ready to go into my stock pot. So I'm going to turn my induction unit on, and I'm going to give it a few minutes to get warm, but I'm going to just put a little bit of olive oil inside my stock pot, and I'm using extra virgin olive oil. So here we go. Just a little bit, just enough to saute my vegetables. Okay? And while that's happening, I'm going to just let the vegetables flow right into my pot, because we're not going to let these saute for too long, but just long enough to soften, and you'll smell that aroma. Okay, as you can hear already, the sizzling. Gonna give it just a couple of minutes to just soften up. And while my vegetables are softening in my 11-quart stock pot, I'm going to share a little bit of information about collard greens, because you may have missed my information that I shared yesterday. Collard greens are actually a superfood, and that's because they have vitamins A and vitamin C. And both of those vitamins are important in building your immune system. So, collard greens can become a vital part of your diet. Okay, guys. So, we've let these saute, and the next thing that I am going to do is I'm going to add water to my stock pot, because I need to create a broth. Okay, my stock pot has been filled about 1/3 of the way with water. So I've got my water, my garlic, and my red onion all in the same 11-quart stock pot. Now, I like to season my collard greens with turkey necks, smoked turkey necks. Now, growing up, the way I did, we used pork, a lot of pork. But, of course, in controlling my levels of hypertension, I have found it is best to stay away from pork for my seasoning as much as possible. So, I'm going to put this in with the rest of the broth. And what happens is that it takes probably a good 30 minutes to let these create their own broth and to season that water. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to let that water with the ingredients that I've indicated come to a nice rapid boil, and just boil for a while. What I'm going to do is to put the top of my VIDA SANA 11-quart stock pot on, because VIDA SANA has a steam seal system, and it is going to hold the steam in and keep that nutrient flow within the pot, so that we're maintaining at least 67.4% of the nutrients. And I'm putting it on the steam setting, because this steam seal valve has 3 settings, so I'm using the center section of it so that it can keep the nutrients in. We're just going to let that happen, let it boil. So midway through, I am going to add more ingredients to my broth that is just roaring in this 11-quart stock pot. So I'm going to take off my lid, and what I'm going to do is add seasoning. This seasoning is going to rapidly boil for the rest of the 30-minute time period, And then I'm going to place my freshly washed collard greens in the pot, and it will allow the collard greens to just be in that broth for at least another 45 minutes, and then we're going to take out our delicious collard greens and I'm going to share them with you. So let me get started. I am putting in some Worcestershire sauce. I'm also putting in some red vinegar. I also have, of course, some crushed red pepper. And of course, the crushed red pepper would be to taste. I've got a little paprika. I've also got some ground pepper. That's ground black pepper. And then lastly, I'm adding some maple syrup. Those are my seasonings. I'm going to place the top back on. Let it continue to boil on the steam seal setting for approximately 10 to 15 minutes more. And then I'll bring my greens over and immerse them into my broth. Okay, everybody, we're down to the final stage, and I'm about to place my greens into my broth. So let me take my lid off. And I wish you could see this broth because it looks amazing. And all the ingredients have just completely revolved around into all of that broth, and it's looking so good. So now we're going to take our greens and simply place them into our Vida Sana 11-quart stock pot. And the greens themselves will have water that will come, or I should say broth that comes from them. So therefore I'm not adding any additional water at all. And if you've ever prepared greens, you know that they really condense themselves down. So even though this may look like a full pot, when they finish cooking, they will probably be about half of the 11-quart stock pot. So you always start with a larger pot with greens, just so you have enough room for all of your greens to fit into the stock pot. All right, guys, so we've got those all in, and now I'm going to put my lid on and wait 45 minutes, and my greens will be completely cooked. And once again, putting that steam seal valve on will keep those nutrients inside and actually allow the greens to be so soft and tender. You'll see. Okay, everybody, it's time to enjoy those collard greens. So let's get ready to eat. I'm going to take my lid off my 11-quart Vida Sana stock pot, reach in and grab some of these delicious collard greens. Now, one thing I do want to share, some of you may like collard greens a little spicier than others, and if that's the case, you can always add just a little bit more pepper flakes. Some of you might like more of a salty taste. If that's the case, you can also add some of your special salt seasoning. Perhaps you might like to have some seasonal, or you might have your own special salt blend. If that's the case, you can do that as well. Now, let's take a look. Check out the collard greens. And now, yum, yum, yum. Let me get a taste. collard greens for Thanksgiving. Try my recipe. You can improvise however you'd like, but come back again for another fabulous Friday recipe. But I do hope you enjoy my collard greens recipe. And I want to say have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and thank you all for being such a blessing to me as you've shared yourself with me and my Princess House business this year. See you real soon on another fabulous Friday. Bye, everybody.